families. I'm your family relationship coach, Emmylou Penrod. And on this show, we focus on 6 areas of health for families: emotional, financial, mental, physical, social, and spiritual. And this month, our emphasis is on physical health. So I am really excited to introduce the most energetic and inspiring health coach I have worked with, Suzi Barrett.
Hey, everybody.
Suzi, welcome. I love your whole approach of, you're not yelling at me and beating me up. You're saying just make healthy changes and make them a habit.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that Biggest Loser show where the trainer climbs up on the treadmill and screams in your face, that's not really where we're at with health. So I like to take a different approach of making things easier because most of us really, who has time for all the complicated stuff out there? And that's where that cyclical frustration cycle comes from is, okay, I got to try something super hard. I get frustrated with it or I don't have time for it. So then I feel like a failure and I don't want to do anything again. And so we try to do the opposite approach where we're going to start super simple with something that is personalized to you and gets you the first result that you want, like the most important thing for you. Maybe it's energy, or maybe it's you have a shoulder injury, or maybe it's whatever the top thing is that's an issue for you. We're going to make that go away within a couple of weeks. And then we're going to give you the process to keep this going for a lifestyle. And it actually gets easier over time instead of harder. So yeah, that's kind of the approach that I take towards health.
And this is ideal for a family, because if you want to sell your children on being physically fit, you have to make it fun, right?
Totally. And it works really well when you're working with kids of multiple ages. Most people in a family, you don't just have, all 9-year-olds or all 5-year-olds. You're working somewhere with, you've got a baby and you've got a 15-year-old and all the things in between. It's hard to come up with a fitness plan for the family that works for all of those people. It's going to be difficult. But if we come up with something simple of, okay, you know what, we're going to do 1 minute of push-ups as a family every day. That is possible. And maybe your 15-year-old does 40 push-ups and maybe your 1-year-old does 2. And, or maybe your 1-year-old just runs around the room while you guys are doing it. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is that you're doing this together as a family and that you're able to keep it simple enough that it can be personalized to each person in the family.
Yes, I love that. And I like the idea of doing it together.
Yeah, so often we think that it's either parenting time or fitness time or health time. Like, oh, I got to work on my stuff or their stuff. I had a conversation with my husband probably 10 years ago, and I was just thinking, like, what value do I have to these kids? It was a hard time for me where I was having some mental health struggles, and I just thought, he goes to work every day and he's providing for the family. What is it that I'm giving? And he just said to me, he's like, you know more about health than any of us. And what is one thing that every single person in this home needs is to be healthy. And so I really started focusing on that as, all right, I can bringing up my children and teaching them and helping them grow is one thing, but I can also bring in my personal expertise, my passions, the things that I love, and help them to understand and learn a little bit of that from me so that they, one, get to see me use my skills and gifts and talents, and two, it's beneficial for them. And so oftentimes we think, oh, I have to, work outside the home, or I have to go out and do some world-changing thing in order to have purpose. But really, you can take your passions, your dreams, and the things that you're good at and start it right in your own home. And then maybe it expands from there.
Exactly. And it's more than just exercise. I know you've talked about having healthy snacks on hand. So you're taking your child to their sports game and you can grab, what is it, like a healthy trail mix or something. Talk about that.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah, I kind of have a trail mix bar in a cabinet in my kitchen. And it's the first cabinet that you have to pass before you can get to anything else in the kitchen. So that way, when we're running out the door or whatever, I just keep, I call it homemade trail mix. And I keep jars of this stuff in my cabinet. And if we're really in a hurry, I literally just grab the jar and we take it with us. And we're all eating out of this jar as we're going to the cross country meet or the basketball game or whatever we're doing. And it just keeps it so that we have these things on hand all the time and that it's first thought. It's the first thing that the kids, oh, I want an after school snack or whatever. They go to that cabinet first. Then if that cabinet doesn't have what they want, then they can, look into the fridge or other things But they start with the healthy options first. That's the first thing that comes to their mind because we've created that as a habit of where we're in a hurry. We don't grab McDonald's. We grab the jar of homemade healthy stuff. And I don't meal prep and I don't plan and I don't do a million hours worth of stuff in order to make this happen. I keep it super crazy simple. I just go to the bulk section at Winco once every week or two, and I buy a couple of different seeds and nuts and things that the kids like. And we make a combination dish of the things that we enjoy that have great multi-nutrients in them. So we try to blend 4 or 5 different types of foods so that, you get different access to different nutrients and micronutrients in there. But the point of it is the simplicity. The point of it is that we grab and go, and we know that we have those healthy options available to us. Access is such a huge issue when you're a mom of little kids, especially where you're just like, everything is last second and everybody's hungry right now. And then with teenagers, you're always on the go and you feel like you live in your car. This makes it so that you don't have to go through the drive-through. You are able to plan ahead and have those things with you without really having to plan extra time for that prep.
And it sounds like you've made physical activity part of family time together.
For sure. We do a lot of physical activity together. We try to pick different things that each different kid enjoys. During the summer, it's easier because we just like to spend time outside together. And so whether we're hiking or just running around in the backyard, that tends to be, backyard baseball is one of the favorites. But during the wintertime, we got to get a little bit more creative. And so, sure, a couple of the kids are on sports teams, but a couple of them are not. And so we got to find ways that we can be active and healthy together at home. And oftentimes, Braden and I, my husband and I, will just invite the kids into the gym while we're working out. We don't tell them, oh, you have to do these lifts, or, oh, grab the dumbbells or whatever. And we just have them in the room. And oftentimes they'll just mimic us. And so he's doing squats over here with a big heavy bar, and I'm doing, tricep dips over there with my full body weight. But our little kids are in the room somewhere doing some form of this that is, useful to them. Or sometimes they'll ask us questions. Well, how do I do that? Or I want to try that or whatever. It just gives them a little bit of an introduction without feeling like it's a class or without feeling like, oh, I have to learn this thing. It's not forced. It's simply brought on by curiosity. And that to us has been extremely beneficial. And it just makes it fun. Because sometimes the kids are just running around in there. That we also have a basketball hoop up in the room. And so, there's a lot of different options. I try to keep things out where they can see them. If we put them away in a cabinet, it might look a little cleaner, but it's not going to be first thing on their mind versus when they come in the room, there's a big bag of balls hanging right there next to the door and jump ropes and a bunch of other things that as soon as you walk in that room, you think, oh, okay, let's do one of these things. It's a way to trigger some creativity without really having to, look for it. It becomes very habitual and natural.
So it's a room in your house dedicated to encouraging movement.
Totally. I call it my anti-video games room. It's on the opposite side of the house of the video games. And occasionally I'll just say, all right, everybody to the gym. And we go to that room. And I've actually had a gym space in every home that we have had. We've lived in 4 different homes, and it doesn't even matter. One of them, it was this teeny tiny little storage room that we converted into a gym, and the kids called it the dungeon. But it had enough room for like 2 pieces of equipment, and that's it. So we'd go in there, and if you tried to jump rope, you'd hit the ceiling with the rope. But the point was, we had a dedicated space where we knew, all right, everybody to the gym. And that's just a thing that we do together. And a couple of us would have to do it in the hallway. There was a set of stairs right next to it. So we'd use the hall and the stairs too, because the room was really, really tiny. So it's not that you have to have, a big fancy gym in your home or a big fancy whatever setup. Just a simple space where that is the thing that comes to mind when they go to that place is so, so helpful. And then it gives them, again, the ability to either have that independence where occasionally if my kids are frustrated with homework or stuff like that, I'll just say, all right, just go and have a little time in there, and I'll just send them to that room. Sometimes they just sit around. Sometimes they lay in there. Sometimes they, punch the punching bag. It depends on what mood they're in. But the idea is that they just know that they have a space they can escape to that has no rules and no requirements. We've had many holes in the walls in this room, and it's fine. That's the room they can play without rules. And it just gives them a place where they can, one, we can do it together as a family and, fitness focused. And two, it's an outlet for them when they need a little bit of relief.
Now, you've said three things I want to highlight. The first was that you're following their lead. You let them pick the sport. You're making sure that, you do this together as a family, but each one gets to pick. So you're honoring their preferences. The second thought is, I've always said the most powerful teacher for children is the example of their parents. So first of all, you are living this healthy lifestyle and just inviting your children to be part of it.
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing that I've not always done right. I have definitely learned that if you force it on them, it feels like everything else that gets forced on them and they'll push you back. There will be some definite pushback on that. Versus if you just tell them what you're thinking about. So like I have a lot of clients that ask me, how do I start making my kids eat healthy? If you sit down and you say, all right, kids, you have to have 1 cup of broccoli at every meal, they all instantly hate broccoli. Versus if you are like, hey, I want to try this week. I'm going to cook broccoli 7 ways and I'm going to test them all. Does anybody else want to try? Anybody else want to test them and see if you like them? And then throughout those 7 ways, it's likely that you'll find one way that one of those kids is like, oh, actually, that's really good. I have 2 kids that hate raw broccoli and love cooked broccoli that's steamed. And I have 2 kids that hate steamed broccoli and love raw broccoli. So we kind of got to play a little bit of both. But you learn through, and this wasn't everybody, you have to try this vegetable. You must eat your vegetables or you can't leave the table. It was this is an experiment that I want to try. Who else would like to try it? And I try really hard not to force them into it. If you're going from kids who don't eat vegetables at all to requiring them to have 2 vegetables at every meal, I mean, their taste buds aren't ready for it. There's a lot of science that proves that within about 2 weeks, your taste buds will shift. And so I started, one of the very first cookbooks I ever used was called The Sneaky Chef. And she just slides a ton of vegetables into whatever she's cooking. So like if you're making something with a white sauce, she would put a ton of cauliflower in there. And so the kids started getting used to the flavor of cauliflower without even knowing it was there. And then for holidays, I do pink pasta, which is red lentil pasta. And so they don't know, but they're eating vegetable pasta instead of flour. And they don't even know. We don't really have to tell them. And then at some point they'll ask like, oh, hey, can we have that red pasta? And I'll explain it to them. Yeah. Did you know that's made of red lentils? And they're like, what in the heck is a lentil? And then we get this whole conversation going. And it just invites them into, this is a thing you already like. And it's a way to not force it on them, starting it with and then another thing is just the conversations about it. So my kids see me drinking protein shakes or doing, making sure that I'm starting my meals with a veggie and a protein. That's a big priority for me. And my son, my 5-year-old recently asked the other day at dinner, he's like, Mom, is this a protein? I'm pointing to this thing. And my husband was like, wow, you got even the 5-year-old hopped up on this. And I was like, oh, success. But the point is, as long as you're talking about it, they'll pick up on it.
Yeah. So you make it fun.
Yes.
And the third observation is, you were talking about this exercise room. You're not only meeting their physical needs, you're meeting their emotional needs. You have created a space where they can they can, grapple with those challenging, strong emotions, and it's safe. It's a safe place. So I really love that. That is for sure. Absolutely wonderful.
That has come from me in my own personal experience. So I'm a redhead. I'm a fiery redhead with hot emotions, and anger is one of my first responses to just about every situation. So I've had to learn how to cope with my own emotions in my own life. And several of those, I've been an athlete my whole life and I absolutely love the world of fitness. So several of those outlets for me have been fitness related. So like in college, my sister and I bought a heavy bag and we had one of those in our college dorm. And whenever we'd have a hard breakup or a bad test or something like that, she and I would just go bang it out on the bag. And so for me, when I started having teenagers, I was like, we got to have a bag. So I told my husband, I'm like, we got to hang a heavy bag in this room just so that it's there. And then, you teach the kids a little bit, like a couple of times we do a little workshop in there. Hey kids, let me teach you how to box on the bag. And I actually have a brother-in-law who's a martial arts teacher. So we had him come out and sometimes your kids will learn better from somebody else than from you.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
be open to bringing other people in. Am I a fitness expert? Absolutely, but I'm not the only expert. And so bringing in other people where they can learn from them. They did 2 months of martial arts training with John, and it was fabulous. And they were able to learn how to use the bags and how to use the targets and things like that. And just, exploring different modalities. 2 of them really loved it, and 2 of them checked out after a couple of weeks, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But that's the point of the different things for different kids.
Well, it's the exposure to many options and then allowing them to choose. I think that's
Right.
huge.
Exactly. And then they get to decide what they need at that moment. And they have the confidence knowing, okay, this isn't new. I've tried this before. And so, when you're having a hard day, to go in and try something new is very foreign. But to go in and try something, okay, you know what, I can go and bang this out on this bag right now because I've done it before. That's a whole different level of confidence. And it's nice to know that they have those outlets. Or like I say, the punching of the holes in the wall. I've got a volleyball player that she'll just go in there and serve and serve and serve and serve and serve, and that's how she gets her emotions out, whether she's upset or just feeling a high energy and doesn't know how to calm down. That's a great way for her to do it. And like I say, we don't value the walls in that room as much as we value the emotions that get worked out in there.
I love your priorities. I think you've got your values in exactly the right place. And I understand that this priority of being a mother has impacted your business. You've had a really active, flourishing, successful coaching business for years, and you're considering a shift. Can you talk about that?
For sure. Yeah. So I've just felt sort of drawn to exploring options at this point. So I've been putting in a lot of work into growing a social media group and a following, and offering a ton of value in this group, as well as a coaching program that Emily, you're a part of. And I love what I do, and I'm very passionate about it. But I was starting to realize that this is taking up a significant amount of my time and creativity. And sometimes when the kids would come home from school, they'd want to do something and I would be worn out. And I just was realizing, like, okay, I'm giving my best time to someone else, and started to feel drawn to the fact that, okay, maybe this isn't ideal. And then my kids were also having some different struggles in school. I've got one son that's off the charts, super intelligent, and he's just bored out of his mind. I've got one daughter that really struggles with the structure. And then I have another daughter who's a little bit behind. And so I've been considering the homeschooling options and realizing that if I'm going to homeschool, I got to cut way back on the time in my business. So I reevaluated the business and realized I can do that because I own my own business. I have the privilege and the honor and opportunity to control my own hours. And so I have decided to, shut down several pieces of my business, not all of it, but several pieces that take up the most time and energy, so that I can, give that time and energy to my kids who need it right now. And I just feel really divinely drawn to that at this moment. And so I'm exploring options in what I can do more in my home, and, be able to allow them to see I can chase a dream and a passion and also prioritize family time. But people talk about home life balance or work life balance. I don't necessarily think at any point is it going to be even. I think you'll always have some shifting and some movement in there where some priorities are higher than others at that time. And so for me, I feel like there's a bit of a priority shift happening here, and I'm open to it, and I'm exploring some options, and I appreciate your input, Emmylou.
I highly applaud this. You can always beef up your business later, but your children will only be young for a short time. In 10 years, they'll be gone. They'll be adults.
It's true. Yeah. So that was one thought that I keep having is like, when I've been getting asked to speak on these stages and things like that, I'm gone for 2 or 3 days at a time, but which isn't hard on me. It's super fun and super energizing for me. I love going and speaking, but when I come home, the kids have had a hard time, and it's like, okay, is this worth this right now? Or should I, table this for 10 years or so and pursue that at that point? And I'm realizing that the time of the next 10 years is more valuable in my home than on those stages. And I can chase those stages down in 10 years. Life is long. There's plenty of time to do all the things. Those of us that are constantly in a rush, I'm a type A personality. I always want to do, but I've had to take some time to slow down and just realize I don't have to do it all right now.
You are an energetic woman with so much to offer, so much knowledge, experience, many ideas. you will be, anytime you want, you will be in demand. But I love
I
that
appreciate that, Emily.
you are recognizing now that you are needed in your home. And I support that. I think this is what families need. Families are the foundation of society. If we want to make the world a better place, we need to strengthen families. And I'm so excited to talk to people who are doing that, who are focusing on strengthening their family.
Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. So one thing that I just want to add in there, this has not been a light decision and this has not been an easy move. If I make it sound easy, this has taken me months to process this. And my kids have seen, I've been very open with them about, you know what, this is a really high stress time for mom. Like I just need to take a minute, and I've been journaling a ton, and they've been seeing this happen, and they know what it is that I'm considering. They know, you know, we've had these open conversations. We're very, very open. I tell them I'm an open book and they can ask me anything, and they often get answers they're not ready for, but it's okay. But yeah, so just being able to, you know, give yourself the time to process these kind of changes. Like I say, this probably took me 4 months to come to this decision, and it was an agonizing 4 months. Like it wasn't easy, and it wasn't, I love what I do as a business. And so for me to cut back at all felt like I was cutting away a piece of myself a little bit, but then realizing I'm not cutting this away. I'm just moving it down the timeline a little bit. That's been really helpful for me. So if this is a decision or a transition time in your life, whether it be through work or something else, realize it doesn't have to feel easy. I might make it sound easy, but that's because I've come to the decision. Becoming to the decision was not an easy process.
No, and you're not completely out of it. People can still contact you with questions, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I'm still doing one-to-one coaching, and I'm still doing my group. I just won't be doing much social media interaction for a little bit.
Because you're putting your focus where it matters most.
For sure. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So you've given me the link, and it's right here. You can click on it. And if you have more questions for Suzi, she is amazing. Her energy alone and her cheerful attitude just pull you along and make it fun.
I appreciate that, Emily.
Fitness.
You guys, Emily has been working with me for several months now, and she's just made amazing progress. It's been so fun to see you make these changes in your life and just, you know, go from, okay, these are the type of workouts I'm comfortable with, to trying different things. And these are the type of foods and the type of routine that I'm comfortable with, to, again, trying new things and finding, okay, actually, this is a new routine that I've fallen in love with, and be able to see how your energy changes and how your capacity for growth changes. It's been such a beautiful watch, or such a beautiful thing to watch. And I appreciate all the hard work you've done. It's definitely not an easy process, but it's been a privilege to work with you, Emily. I appreciated having you in here.
I have enjoyed it and love what you're doing. Suzi, thank you for sharing these valuable ideas for families on how to promote health, nutrition, exercise, movement, and how to make it fun.
Thanks for having me here. So just as we end, or as we close out here, those of you that are looking for, whether you want to just ask questions or to book a one-to-one session with me, that link, like she pulled up on the screen, is suzibhabits.com/calendar. But I just wanted to drop one of my very favorite family habits that we have created together as a family. So a couple of years ago, our number one struggle in our home was house chores. Who here has struggles with making their kids do their chores, right? So this just became a real sense, or a real spot of contention in our home. I love to have a clean house, and my kids don't care at all. So it's like, all right, how do we bridge these two worlds? So I decided to start them with the system that I actually use in my coaching program. Emily has done this system many times, and we call it the 1, 2, 3 habits. And you just start with one focus. And for 2 months, you're going to focus on 3 daily tasks. And so I wanted my kids to get a little bit of autonomy, and also a little bit of really healthy habits for their own lives, things that they would use forever. And so I personally have had a life-altering experience with through postpartum depression, with the habit of making my bed. And so every day I read the book to my kids and told them about my own personal experience, and then give them a little bit of the why behind it. And then I started asking them to make their beds every day. And so that was one of their daily habits. So some of the things I let them guide themselves to, and other things I give them a little bit of research and tell them, okay, these are some really healthy habits for you. We're also a spiritual family. We believe in God, and I think we should start our day every day with the right partner with us. So I've been asking them to say their prayers first thing in the morning. So they pray, they make their bed, and then they brush their teeth. A little bit of body, mind, and spirit there. So those are the first 3 habits that we started with. And I had them just do those 3 things. Every single one of my kids, from the teenagers down to the toddlers, every day. We did it all summer long last summer. And then by the end of the summer, those 3 things had become habits. And so they were getting easier and easier. And the kids had more capacity for more. So we added on 3 more. And so now we do a morning 6. And so they do 6 tasks in the morning before anything, before they come down for breakfast, before they get on the bus for school. Is the first 6 things that they do. And I don't force them to do it. I don't check it off. I don't, it's not a accountability system where they're accountable to somebody else. It's simply it's a personal decision for them. And so sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't, but most of the time, because we have formed that habit, it happens most of the time. And so they've added cleaning their rooms, cleaning their bathrooms, and taking a daily shower as well. And so those are their 6 that they do. And like I say, most of the time those happen. And that's the beauty of habits, is you don't have to be perfect. You just have to create a pattern. So as long as they're doing it about 4 days out of 7, I'm really proud of them, and they're proud of themselves. And so that would be, oftentimes people ask me, like, what are some of the top health habits that you would teach your kids? I would start there. Give them the opportunity to feel what a habit is and how they are in control of what their habits are. And start with something so simple. I mean, all 6 of those habits take somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes total. And so we didn't start with 6 either. We started with 3. I always recommend everybody start with 3. Even Emma Lou, you started with 3. We just keep it simple. The process is simple. 1, 2, 3. So focus on one thing that you want for your kids. I wanted independence and autonomy in their contribution to our family. So they were able to make their beds and say their prayers and brush their teeth. And that has been a huge reliever of stress and almost eliminated the contention around how we, work together as a family in cleaning our house and cleaning our bodies. And it's been such a relief for having them do those things on their own.
And essential life skills. Oh, Suzi, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And for my viewers, join me again next week at the same time. Until then, love yourself and love your family. Let's make the world a better place by strengthening families. This is Emma Lou Penrod with healingyourfamilies.com.